Alright, we're back! This has quickly become one of my favorite Elseworlds, and there are quite a few that I love, but I can't put this one down. Issue 5 opens with Zala's return to the El Kingdom. Cal finds her mourning with Jor-El's remains. She tells him that she didn't immediately rush home. She admits that she went looking for the Green Man, for justice. I mean, she might have been looking for the Green Man, but who she found and what she did was far from simple justice. I don't just mean her retaliation against Pierce. Remember the poor metalman that she ripped apart and scrapped like a junk car? I know she's hurting, but there is something so off about this character. Now, if you recall, the shot that started all of this came from Hobbs Forest. An ambassador of the Crown has traveled into the forest to speak to the Lady of the Woods. Well, there's a few reasons why they sent Quinn. We all know the Batman's hangups and penchant for throwing anyone different into the dungeon. But Waller would have been even worse. She'd be more apt to burn the forest down than ask Ivy for help. But Harley seems to already have a rapport with Ivy. She tells her what happened to the king and that the shot came from her forest. And as long as Ivy remains neutral, threats from both sides will travel the forest, and she will be dragged into the war anyway. And Quinn asks Ivy to help the elves, so that she and the forest become the first line of defense, stopping anyone from entering or passing from the opposite side. Ivy makes it clear that she has no interest in helping the elves, but that she would do anything for Harley. She would bury an army for her, which, as Quinn points out, is both romantic and horrifying. Now, there's something within this exchange that I think is extremely important for the characterization of Harley Quinn. Ivy more or less tries to coax Harley into staying in the forest with her, but the Harlequin is extremely dedicated to her kingdom. She holds a highly important role in the court and must remain with them, especially now. And she asks Ivy to respect that. This is Harley setting boundaries. And not to go into a full 2 cents mid-video, but Harley began as a pincushion for the Joker's antics. That's the best way to say it on the platform. And somehow became a massively popular character, especially with young women. And let's be honest, not the best role model. And they have done a lot to course correct that in recent years. She's appeared in tons of solo stories, as well as Gotham City Sirens with Ivy. So I think that setting a boundary and having a romantic partner that respects that is far more meaningful than at first glance. Also, I think this might be my favorite version of Harley Quinn. By removing the Joker origin story, she's not insane. But without the insanity, she still has all of her best qualities. She's still extremely intelligent. She's still dedicated to those that she loves. She's still goofy and silly, as we'll see in the backup feature of this video. And that reliability makes her far more capable than any other version of her character. And I'm sure she's going to be integral to resolving things as they escalate. Ivy senses something flying over the treetops and takes Harley up to see if they should intervene. They see Diana on her Pegasus soaring towards the El Castle. Unsure of her motives, Harley thinks that it's best to ground the princess, so Ivy uses Vine Whip and pulls the winged horse to the ground. Diana demands that Ivy step aside and let her pass. Of course, she simply refuses, prompting Diana to kick down a massive tree and then slams it on the ground in an attempt to swat them away. But that's where she messed up. Ivy will not allow her to harm the forest and entangles Diana in restraints, using vines and roots to hold her back. And it takes a lot to hold her back. They exchange threats. This version of Ivy is a little bit terrifying, talking about brain-rotting fungus and sprouting thorns in her eyes. Yikes. But Harley breaks things up, trying to find out what the daughter of Amazonia wanted and why she was headed for the El Kingdom. Diana says that she seeks Zala, that she's been accused of something that will tear the kingdoms apart. And having heard the thunderous cracking of trees being tossed about in the forest, Cal and Zala come to investigate. They convince Ivy to let her go, and then Diana and Zala go somewhere private to talk. Now about then, Bruce and Alfred return to the kingdom and are greeted by Dick Grayson. We're going to talk more about the Robins and the Tales of the Kingdom tie-in at the end of this, so stick around for that. But when asked about Cal's location, Grayson reports that Steph last saw the prince in a clearing near the forest. Bruce takes the stone and summons the courage to seek out the prince. So about this time, there are 2 conversations taking place, one with the princesses and one with the princes. Diana tells Zala that King Pierce has accused her of murdering his son Jacob, and Zala denies it. She tells the Amazonian exactly what she already believed to be true, that she'd never harm a child, that King Pierce is so radicalized in his belief in the prophecy that he is willing to tell Hippolyta whatever it takes to keep her on his side. We will have to keep reading to find out if she truly doesn't remember or if she's manipulating Diana, keeping her close and on Zala's side for the war to come. But while this is happening, Bruce finds Cal by the edge of the forest. He tells the prince what he and Alfred found at the crash site, about the metal men, and how the strange rock had even affected him before Alfred covered it with a scrap of Lead's armor. Cal is confused. He doesn't understand why the rock affected Bruce. He's not picking up what Bruce is trying to tell him, so the Bat Prince comes clean, and he tells him the truth of his lineage, what Jor-El revealed to him moments before his death. And upon realizing that he had a brother in Bruce, beyond the bond that the family already felt towards him, but a blood bond, Cal stabs Bruce in the chest with the green shard, lifting him high into the air. This is not the embrace that I had hoped for. As he lifts Bruce into the air, he whispers into his brother's ear, proclaiming that this is their world now, and that there can be no challengers. Then power slams him back to the ground. Pierce was right. The elves are not who they seem. There is clearly something wrong. The Kal-El that we met in Book 1 would have leaped into the air and rejoiced to have Bruce as a brother. I think it's a lot more than just the recent loss that has the El children acting so out of place. But luckily for Bruce, a farmer and his wife witnessed his impact while traveling home. Instantly recognizing the Bat Prince, the farmer rushes to his aid. They pull the breastplate off of his armor and quickly determine that the glowing green stone loosely embedded in his chest is likely killing him. When the farmer pulls the stone out of Bruce's chest, we see that now familiar beam of anguish from his eyes. After coming to his senses, he pleads with them not to take him to the palace. So being the kind souls that they are, they take him home to the Kent family farm. God, you gotta love this series, keeping us on our toes, tossing familiar characters in familiar situations that aren't theirs. It's so good. And thus ends Chapter 5. But let's take another look at the tales of the Three Kingdoms. This tale is set 5 years prior to the present day of the main series, on All Hallows Eve, when Prince Cal decides to sneak out into the village to get to know his kingdom and its people a little bit better. This adventure seems to be encouraged and facilitated by his advisor, Harley. But before they could sneak out and join the festivities, they run into Bruce, and much to Harley's dismay, he's coming too. I like how they each don their traditional disguises as well. Cal with his simple eyeglasses, and Bruce with a dark cowl. Out on the town, Quinn does her best to show her prince a different side to his kingdom, highlighting the beauty and wonder of the city, while Bruce is focused on the darker underbelly of the city. They notice a few wanted posters for a band of thieves known as the Robins, and start discussing a recent wave of robberies. Bruce mentions how Dame Bertinelli's manor was burglarized, likely referring to Helena Bertinelli, the Huntress. And while Harley is distracted by a cute puppy, Bruce and Cal have one of their classic debates. Bruce is worried about the growing darkness, while Cal sees it as their duty to shed light and instill hope. When out of the blue, a passerby plucks Harley's earrings and necklace right off of her. The two princes burst into pursuit, but one of the birds calls out and they break formation, and they quickly realize that there are far more of them than they had originally thought. Bruce fixes his sights on one and leads a chase across the city. Bruce thinks that he has the thief cornered and grabs a hold of his cape, but the boy pulls away and makes it onto the rooftop. It's Richard Grayson, looking fantastic in those original Flying Grayson colors, I might add. He tosses out some smoke pellets to keep bats off his trail and then sets off, leaping across a moving carriage, which causes the driver to lose control of the horse. And to make matters worse, a young child is standing in the street, frozen with fear. Dick recognizes this and doubles back for the kid. No way he's gonna let them get trampled. Now this isn't just some kid, this is Cole, a teen titan. She had a couple dozen appearances in the 80s, and during that time she developed quite the relationship with fellow titan Jericho. But saving the kid meant risking himself. As the bat looms over him, Dick still thinks the others got away, and he's willing to take the fall for the group. But here comes Cal, soaring in holding a flock of robins by their wings. We see Jason, Steph, and Duke, who were all in issue 1, but we finally see Tim. And this last Robin isn't directly addressed by name here, but I'll go ahead and say that it is revealed to be Cassandra Cain in issue 9 of the main title. Cass is of course one of the many Batgirls from over the years, and we'll talk more about that. But Bruce is concerned with this path that they have chosen. He thinks that thieves and bandits turn into cutthroats and killers. But the Robins take immediate offense. They are not killers. Sure, they take from the wealthy, but that's so that they can eat and have a temporary roof over their heads. And in their mind, they're not hurting anyone, they're taking care of themselves. Also, Dick sees through the disguise and calls him out on being the bastard prince, which is really not all that impressive, seeing as how Cal is just kind of flying around in front of him. Probably not all that hard to deduce, but it was enough to put a smile on Bruce's face, and for him to offer them a proper job, leading us to where the Robins were when the story began. In the beginning, Harley says that this trip was to help her prince see another side to his kingdom. And now at the time, she's arm in arm with Cal, but the line repeats at the end in a way that implies that this whole trip was really meant for Bruce, to show her prince another side to his kingdom and himself. Now that's gonna wrap it up for this one. Until next time, enjoy yourselves. Hey, hello, and welcome to the end screen. I appreciate you sticking with this series. I know typically the longer a series goes, the less viewer retention each installment has. I know most of you are just waiting for more 2-cent videos. They're coming, both classic Marvel and DC characters. There's a lot to discuss and new stories to explore being written every day, so I'd better get to work. In the meantime, I'm gonna toss up a few videos here that you might also enjoy. Thanks for being here.